Welcome once again to another installment of Strange Planet. And on this episode, we go to Mars. Not the Mars you think you know, not the cold, dead rock of NASA press releases, but a Mars that whispers of ruins, of geometry, of intelligence, square walls a mile long, right angles carved into the red dust, structures that look eerily like ancient fortresses, visible from orbit, persistent across decades of imaging, and completely unexplained by known geology. Joining me on this installment is one of the brave men daring to ask the forbidden question, what if this isn't natural? What if this is archaeology? He's a researcher with the Cydonia Institute and co-author of a bombshell new paper published in the Journal of Astrobiology titled Mars, Geological Formation or Archaeology, Square-Shaped Structure Within an Arabian Terra Crater. George J. Haas has spent years studying Martian anomalies alongside geologist William Saunders and Boston University's Dr. Robert Schoch. He's now turning the scientific world on its head, suggesting that Mars may be home to the remnants of a long-lost civilization. Elon Musk is tweeting, NASA is squirming, and today we're digging deep. If this is this the first true archaeological site ever discovered off Earth? And if so, who built it and where did they go? George J. Haas is the founder and premier investigator of the Cydonia Institute, which was founded in 1991. And he's also the co-author of the Cydonia Codex, Reflections from Mars, the Martian Codex, More Reflections from Mars, and the author of The Great Architects of Mars, Evidence for the Lost Civilization on the Red Planet. George, welcome back to Strange Planet. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great, and I appreciate you having me on with such short notice here to get this show out to the people tonight.
Well, and for those who are just listening to the podcast, we're going to be referring to some images from the report. And so I would encourage you to get on up to the YouTube channel at Strange Planet Radio, and you can see these images. But if you're not able to do that, we'll try and describe what we're looking at as best we can. And we're going to start with Figure 2, which I guess is on page 54 of the report. Now, I mean, every science fiction story seems to begin with a structure, angular, impossible, buried in silence. But this one, it's real. It's on Mars. Are we witnessing the first solid clue that we were never alone in the solar system?
Well, besides the face on Mars and the D&M pyramid in Cydonia, this was one of the first outside of Cydonia structures to be found. This was brought to my attention by Richard Hoagland back in 2001. So this is early on. They took the newer pictures of the Cydonia area, I think 1998, and into the early 2000s. So this is one of the early Mars Global Surveyor images that came out. And when NASA took this picture, they were like right on target. The whole strip. NASA takes these pictures in these long strips. Sometimes they're shorter strips where they come over the area on the surface and they take these long digital images. This image of this square-shaped structure was dead center. It's almost as if they knew what they were looking at. And this didn't get a lot of play early on. Some of the people that were part of Richard Hoagland's discussion board on his Enterprise mission, we talked about this. This is old news to us because this was from back in 2001. I mean, it's what, 2025? So it's over 20 years later that this thing has hit the public's attention.
You argue the square-shaped structure in Arabia Terra, it defies natural geological explanation. I mean, what specific features, as we have this image up on the screen, just walk us through it. What specific feature or measurement first made you suspect artificiality rather than geology?
Well, the NASA images shows the interior of a large crater. And the image shows the exposed material in the crater. And we find this square-shaped formation within all this debris field. And it's very geometric. It has geometry. It's symmetrical. I think the image that people are looking at, we show the image from NASA, and all I did was just do an outline, and you can actually see these square-shaped outline without the my artwork added to it. But just to give the audience to what we're looking at. The interesting thing also is that it's a north to south orientation. The point of it, where you have this L-shaped corner, which is 90 degrees, which you don't find in nature. Directly below that, at the south, the point of the structure goes off the side of a cliff. This is set right on the edge of a cliff. That's where it's oriented on inside this huge crater. So right off the bat, when you see it, it's like, my God, this is very square. And you don't have to be a geologist to know that you don't find square structures in nature.
Give us the dimensions, roughly.
I think it's over a mile square. It's very large. Everything we're finding on Mars is very large.
Yeah. So each, again, a square, each side is over a mile. They're this roughly the same. Well, it's a square, so each side is the same length, over a mile long.
Yeah, the northern corner is L-shaped, has a 90-degree angle. Parts of it is buried in sand and debris. The southern corner, like I said, juts off over a cliff. The two west and eastern sides are more covered in debris than the other two sides, but you can see it through the highlighting of the material that's on the surface, the dust and ice or whatever. So you can see there's a slight impression of the square without even looking at the debris that's sticking out, and also some of the structural walls that are there.
We're going to put figure 6 up here, which is on page 59, figure 6. And this is showing a side-by-side comparison of the square structure we just discussed in 2001, 2008, 2018, and 2022. This structure, again, has remained consistent in form across, 4 different NASA images spanning over 21 years. How significant is that kind of persistence in eliminating natural processes as a cause?
Well, the interesting thing about this formation is that it's one of the earlier images that was taken by the Mars Global Surveyor. So we have 25 years almost here of NASA taking pictures of this formation. And the Mars Global Surveyor only took this one really nice image this is what started the whole investigation here. And this really didn't get the public attention until, Joe Rogan, had it on his podcast. And he invited Elon Musk on there. And, Elon Musk said, we need to go there and check this out. So a lot of local people, scientists and things, thought this was very interesting. And none of them even knew about this. I mean, it's like I keep saying, this is old to researchers like myself. We're like, why are they talking about this now? It's kind of strange. But over the years, NASA has taken numerous pictures with the Mars Reconnaissance CTX camera. I think there's like 8 to 10 images of this. So you have a lot of images to look at. And the great thing about looking at these images, NASA, when they take these images, they have what they call ancillary data, which tells you the sun angle, what time of day it was taken, the angle of the camera, the lighting coming in. So you have all this mathematical information about the formation. And you can compare that to other images that are taken in the spring, the summer, the fall, different seasonal times. And this formation still stands up under all different types of lighting conditions. And we show some of those in the science paper.
Figure 8 on page 61, figure 8, this image sort of juxtaposes a right angle on Mars, Sacra Fossae. With the Arabia Terra square, showing sort of a difference in complexity and form?
Yeah, well, NASA, when this got the attention because of Joe Rogan, NASA snapped into action, and they started, because this was in Forbes magazine, this was all over the place on the internet in the beginning of the year. This just started in February this year with all this information coming out. And so NASA tried to protect themselves. So they had one of their scientists come out and say that, oh, no, this is just a fault line. And he showed a comparison of a fault line. That's what you see there, the Fossae area. So that's just your typical, it's like a T. Looks nothing like the square formation that we're seeing on Mars. And they're trying to compare that and saying that, oh, this formation on Mars is just a fault. Now, Robert Schoch is a geologist. He is one of the authors of the paper, and he goes on page after page here in the paper talking about how this is not a fault. This is not created by a fault. And the interesting thing about his analysis is that, he gives a scientific explanation. NASA only shows a picture which has nothing to do with this storm. And they do this with the face on Mars. They'll compare it to a butte out somewhere in the Midwest and say, hey, look, they're almost the same, And they try this with this square formation.
Is there any precedent on Earth for geological processes producing such features?
Well, there's some geological formations that create these little squares, but they're 3 or 4 inches in size, very small, and it's a pattern that'll be created on surfaces in certain areas. But nothing compared. This thing's like up over a mile in size, so this is gigantic, and you can actually see the walls, the remnants of walls. This is partially, obviously, buried in there's erosion to this, and we're only seeing some of the corners. So, if we were to go there like Elon Musk suggests, to do some archaeological digging, I'm sure we would find a lot more going on here than a fault.
Figures, we're going to put 2 up here. Figures 9 and 10, which is pages 62 and 63. And here we're seeing the outline of 3 quadrilateral structures: the main square, the cliffside rectangle, and the square of mounds. Again, the site features not just 1, but 3 quadrilateral forms: a square, a rectangular cliff impression, and a square of 4 mounds. How unlikely is it that 3 quadrilateral features occurred naturally in one spot?
It's impossible. This is a feature that I discovered looking at this. And when I showed this to Robert, he was like, yeah, this just shows that this is not a natural formation. And the thing is, the first square that we're seeing there, one of the quadrilateral structures, is the square, the main feature of the paper. The second one is a rectangular impression that's in the ridgeline. And actually, there's other images of that little square that's in the on the cliff ridgeline. And you can actually see water seeping down out of that. So that's basically gouged out in there. And I don't know if that's an opening or whatever that goes into, a doorway to something. But, if you had something sealed with cracks around it, forming a rectangle, and you had water under the surface, it would leak out and drip down. There's pictures of that available through the CTX images. It's so seeping coming right out of those cracks. So it's really bizarre. And the third formation is a square on the eastern side, just past the major square rectangle, which has these 4 little mounds that line up and form a square. So there's 3. Now, in nature, you might find 2 square type formations. That could be a coincidence, but finding 3, that's definite. That's a pattern.
Figure 13 on page 65. Is it lidar or lidar, the image? Is that?
Oh, that's lidar. That's
lidar.
You're talking about, this is in Mexico?
Yeah, the White City in Belize. An image of White City in Belize.
Yeah, this was accidentally found. I think this goes back to, when was this found? I think this was 2009. This is in Belize. And, they were just doing LiDAR scans of the area. They were actually looking for more Mesoamerican pyramidal structures and things like that in the area. And LiDAR is a great tool because what it does, it gets rid of all the foliage, all the tree leaves and everything, and you can zoom down and hit the ground. And it's like looking at black and white photographs of Mars, actually. Looking at this image of Belize, it's almost like something you're looking at Mars, because Mars has no vegetation, everything's dead. And so the structures are easy to find. The amazing thing with this is that this is also a north to south orientation. Do you notice it has that square diamond shape? Mm-hmm. The northern corner points up, the southern corner points down, just like we have on Mars. It's the same orientation, which is, again, pretty amazing. Right. And that, again, it shows the outline, and it's on a cliff. It's right on the edge of a cliff, just like we're finding on Mars. And that area below it, that's probably an old valley riverway. So it's almost like we're looking at what we're seeing on Mars, this formation up on the hill with the square shape, and the corner of it, its southern tip points out over. It's it's a defensive posture.
Right, right. So again, we have
Very good for military.
the lost white city in Belize, revealed by LIDAR. We have, I mean, you cite terrestrial comparisons, ancient Ohio mounds,
Yes,
Masada in Israel.
Israel. Yeah, that again, it has the point comes out over the cliff, just like we're seeing here.
Let me go out on a limb here and ask you, are these Martian forms suggesting a universal architectural language?
Well, I think the same. That's why my book's called The Great Architects of Mars, because I think there's some type of heritage that we have using these. And my book is full of these comparisons, showing how I'm finding these structures on Mars, a lot of star forts and things like that that are produced on Earth, finding them on Mars. It seems like it's a lost heritage, that we have some type of connection to these architects. Whoever built these structures on Mars had a very close relationship with us.
Sure. Figure 1 or figure 4, I guess, these are some of the clearest high-res images of the square structure itself, again showing apparent wall segments, sharp edges. I mean, I know you carefully stop short of declaring this as an alien city, but is that not what your data strongly implies?
Well, if it's not a city, it's a large building, the remnants of that. And it looks like it's some type of fortification that's defensive in nature. And this figure 4, that's the one of the newer images. That's the Mars Reconnaissance high-rise image. That's the highest resolution ever taken. And you can still see it looks very similar to the old Mars Global Surveyor image. The only problem with that high-rise image, you notice all of the streaks. There's a lot of white streaks in it, which that's a digital problem, but that's all we had. Normally, these high-rise images are crystal clear. I don't know why this has all this disturbance in it, but it's a little distracting seeing all these white lines going down. But that image just, cements the whole case that this structure, we've had images of this since 2001 all the way to 2004, and the structure is still there. It's still standing up.
So what would be the next logical step if this is indeed an artificial structure? I mean, is this not effectively then an alien city? I mean, what's the next step?
Well, the next step is to follow Elon Musk's suggestion and go there and investigate. And, he's one of the main proponents that wants to go to Mars. He wants to build, cities and colonies on the surface. And I don't know how that schedule has been affected by the dogfight that him and Trump have had lately. But that was the main mission. They even postponed the moon mission because they were going to go on. They're going to bypass the moon and go right to Mars, and that was supposed to be going on, I think, next year. But I haven't heard anything about the mission since the little uproar there.
Figure 5 from page 56, the 2022 high-rise image shows, this is surface details. You mentioned, potential seepage that could suggest a buried infrastructure. I mean, in your conclusion, you recommend ground-penetrating radar. Do you think NASA or private ventures like SpaceX would be ever permitted or willing to perform such a survey if it risked, I don't know, validating extraterrestrial archaeology?
Well, NASA has toyed with this idea of using a similar type of LIDAR camera on Mars, but I haven't heard anything concrete about that. But that has been suggested, and NASA has entertained that idea of using a LIDAR on Mars. And it would be very easy to well, what they want to do besides LIDAR, see, LIDAR gets rid of all the foliage. They'd have to do ground penetrating type of scans, kind of like what they're doing with the pyramids over in the Gaza pyramids, where they're finding all of these tubular structures underneath the surface. That's the type of technology they'd have to use on Mars, I would believe. And that would penetrate down into the surface. I guess I was confused with your question, but LiDAR wouldn't help because there's nothing to go through on the ground.
No, but ground. Well, again, getting
The
back to
ground penetrating radar would be something they'd want to use, and they've already discussed that. 10 years ago.
Yeah, but
They may be doing it, but we don't know about it.
That's the big question. Would they be willing to do it or reveal the results if it supports, the extraterrestrial archaeology hypothesis, I guess?
Oh, I would assume, but they'd have to have someone like Elon Musk to get them to do it. I think the first step is to go there. The problem is, Elon Musk thinks he's going to go to Mars and do whatever he wants, but he's going to be under the control of the government. And, NASA has control of all of these programs, even countries that want to do this independently. NASA's controlling that. NASA controlled the German, the European Space Agency. They were controlling what they were doing. So they have their fingers everywhere. And they're not going to allow some, young guy to get a rocket that can, take off and land on its own and go to Mars. So without them supervising every little thing he does.
Right.
But that would be the first step to get there, set up some kind of bases where you could do, get some ground truth, as they call it. And there's a lot of places to go. This square structure, I find it very interesting. But my book is full of things that are 10 times better. But Robert and I and William, because of the public's interest in this, we wanted to get this paper done because this has people's attention.
Absolutely.
And if they think this is good, wait till they see what's in my book.
Yes, this will be a nice little appetizer for them.
Yes.
Incidentally, how was it difficult to get this published in a peer-reviewed journal? Was there any pushback? Are they open to this?
There are a lot of journals that will, right now, after I think the last 10 years, there's a lot of independent journals. There's journals all over the place that are, they're dedicated to space exploration, things like that. This journal's been around for a while. It's an interesting thing how this all came together, if you'd like to hear what happened.
Yes, please. I would love to.
Well, William Saunders and I, we're members of the Society for Planetary SETI Research, and we've worked on papers with all of these great scientists that are looking at Mars. And we got involved in the Society for Planetary SETI Research when we had our paper published about one of our first papers about the parrot formation on Mars. And that got the attention of the members of the society. They liked the cut of my jib. They brought me in. I don't have a science background. I'm not a scientist. The audience should know that from the beginning. Here I am working with two geologists, and I don't even have a science degree. I'm an artist. I'm a painter and a sculptor. I exhibited up in New York. I had a one-man show at Ivan Karp's gallery, the OK Harris. He was up there on Broadway and stuff. So I exhibited a lot up in New York, got interested in Mars stuff. And so what happened was Bill and I did like 6 papers, science papers that were in peer-reviewed science journals. And one of our members of the society, not the society, but of my group, the Cydonia Institute, Michael Dale, he had passed away a couple years ago, unexpectedly. And he was our second geologist. Now, to get these science papers published, you normally have to have at least 2 scientists on the paper. Especially Mars stuff, because they want to have someone to back this up. You got to get another opinion. So when we lost Michael Dale, we haven't done anything in a while. And I approached my good friend, Cliff Dunning. He's on Earth Ancients. You know Cliff?
No, I don't.
Oh, well, he's got all kinds of views with his podcast. He's pretty well known, but I guess not in your circles. But I contacted Cliff because he gets a lot of people on his show that talk about Mars. He does a lot of archaeological shows. That's his main thing. Mm-hmm. And I said, Cliff, do you know any geologists that could help us out with this paper that we're working on? And he said, yeah, I'll get back to you in a couple of days. He sent me a link. He said, here's Robert Schoch. So I sent Robert I call him Robert now. I sent Robert an email telling him about the paper. He said, send me the paper. I sent him the paper. Didn't hear anything for 3 or 4 days. He sends the paper back. He's already added his geological analysis that you see at the paper there, and he put his name on the paper.
Wow. Wow.
He said, I hope you don't mind. I put my name up. I said, I was like walking on air. I mean, my God, it just all fell into place. And he gave a suggestion for a couple science journals to send it to. We sent it to, because you can only send one journal at a time.
Right.
When you send to a science, I don't know if the audience knows, but now that I've sent to a few science journals, when you send out your papers, that you can only do one journal at a time. You cannot be sending them out to multiple, because they all want to know that they're the only journal looking at your paper.
Right.
So it could take years, after you get, shot down from all of these. So we got picked up the first time we sent it to this journal, and it was great. We did a little bit back and forth with the review and the peer review, and we had to change a few. They changed the title. That's the title they wanted to go with. And so we got it published. And Robert, it was like a window of opportunity. He had like 2 weeks, and then he was going off to Peru. And he did that and went off, and he didn't even know the paper was published until he got back.
Wow.
It was like a dream come true. I mean, it was amazing.
The cosmic tumblers all aligned.
Yes.
For those not familiar, tell us a little bit more about Dr. Robert Schoch vis-a-vis his work with the Sphinx.
Well, I think it was back in the 80s. National Geographic did a whole special on the Sphinx featuring Robert Schoch. And it was hosted by Charlton Heston, very famous. I mean, this was a big story back then. Everybody thought that Robert was a nut, saying that he was actually showing evidence of the water erosion on the Sphinx. It had to be older than the Egyptian civilization. So he made a great case for that, and that's basically what I guess catapulted his career. I mean, he's well known. He's been on Ancient Aliens and all these different programs. He's had science papers published everywhere. So it was a real honor to just fall into this, just because of Cliff randomly giving me an email.
All right, figure 11, which is on page 64. Again, it's showing another square impression in the Cydonia region. I guess, again, supporting the idea of multiple ancient sites. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, that square impression, that was discovered by Dr. Mark Corrado. He's done work with Richard Hoagland, things like. He's also a member of the Society for Planetary Study Research. He's had a few books put out by about Mars. He had this published in New Frontiers of Science. This is a impression in a bunch of rubbled field there, and you can clearly see the square, which is very strange. So that is also in the north to south orientation. And that's right down below the face on Mars in that debris field area that's pretty far down from the face, but that's still in the Cydonia area. So that's where that's located. And he published an article about that back in 2002. And the next image that I don't think you have an image of, but I guess we won't talk about that. Are you familiar with the Atlantis chaos? In my book, I talk about the Atlantis city. They call it the Martian Atlantis, with all the grid-shaped structures in the city.
I'm trying to remember if we discussed that. In fact, this is a good time to remind listeners and viewers that you were on before, and we were discussing the great architects of Mars. And I'm going to put that link to that previous episode in the episode description for this episode, so that people can go back and watch that. But I can't remember if we discussed.
I think we did, and I think the listeners, if they know anything about Mars, this is all over the internet also, this little area that looks like a gridded city. Well, there's another square formation that I have. It's going to be up. If we had done the PowerPoint, I didn't send you that image because it's not in the paper. But it didn't make it in the paper. But there's another area on Mars next to this Martian Atlantis area where all the city is, that has the grid, and there's these structures all over the place. Well, right on the other side of that, on the other side of this huge crater, on the other side of the water, is this large square structure, which has all of its corners, and it's a lot more convincing than what we're looking at here. And it has these four corners. It's a perfect square, and in the center is a huge round mound. Now, this idea of circular and square, that's their opposition. The the Masons, Freemasons, they have the compass and the square,
Right.
their little symbol. The compass makes the circle, and the square obviously makes a nice square cube. So that's the duality. So there's a structure that I have in my PowerPoint that I'm showing to people with that structure in there. But this here structure, this was found, this square impression, this was from Corlado's work.
Again, in the paper, you mentioned Dr. Steve Beresford's belief that the structure might be the remains of an ancient walled Martian settlement. What do you think happened to the civilization that built it?
Well, I think whatever happened to the culture that built this structure was probably related to the same culture that built all these other structures, especially the ones that are in my book, with Cydonia, the face on Mars, the D&M pyramid. That culture, we can speculate if you'd like to have a little fun.
I would love to.
Well, my proposal is that to explain all of this, there's interesting correlation with the timeline about 1 million years ago. Dr. John Brandenburg talks about the Xenon 129 and the explosions on Mars. And he speculates that this happened about 1 million years ago. There's a CIA guy that did some remote viewing. I can't remember his name right now. He's an older guy now, but when he was younger, back in the 1980s, he was part of a group that worked for the government that was tasked to look at Mars. And they didn't know they were looking at Mars, but they did this remote viewing, and they saw this whole civilization in this disaster that happened to them through war and everything. And this happened about 1 million years ago, according to their research. So you got two guys separately talking about 1 million years ago. The other interesting thing is that in my book, The Great Architects of Mars, the last chapter there, I talk about the Maya Star War, which is a history of a war between Earth and Mars that happened about 1 million years ago. And this is only recorded in a small area in the Maya culture in a town called Naranjo. Now in Naranjo, their pottery and their glyphs and their monoliths and a lot of their writings talk about this war between Earth and Mars with Tikal and Cozumel and Naranjo. And this happened about 885,000 years ago, which is pretty close to 1 million years ago. And they also say that another star, they call it a Maya Star War. Now, this is the archaeologist talking, not me. I'm not calling it a Maya Star War, but according to the glyphs, and this is all mentioned in the book, if the listeners want to get the science paper for free and then buy the book, it's all in the book in great detail, that there was another event. The first one was 1 million years ago, and then there was another war conflict that happened about 22,000 years ago. And this is all in there. The Maya were very sticklers for, reckoning time and everything. So this is all documented. They talk about all the stuff that happened and the gods and everything. And I think what they're talking about is something similar to the Anunnaki story, which Zacharias Sitchin talks about. Yes. And he also talks about Ningasada had gone down to Mesoamerica looking for gold with the black-headed people out of Mesopotamia. Well, I believe this was probably some type of runaway culture, alien civilization that was leaving some type of conflict in their solar system, and they came here. When they came into our solar system, they might have come in through the Mars area and came in and saw this beautiful Earth planet that was a paradise. They landed there, and they noticed there were, available Neanderthals, Cro-Magnons on the planet. Through genetic engineering, they made us as helpers. And they, as a safeguard to protect them from whoever this culture was they were running away from, they put guardian outposts on the moon and on Mars, because Mars was a great place because it was already dead. So they built all these structures on Mars to be an outpost. They put their little colonies out there, and it was very militaristic because it was a defensive mechanism. And that's what I show in my book. A lot of these structures that we're finding, these star forge type things that were produced during the Revolutionary War and the Civil War here on Earth, over in France, they made these, and finding the same kind of structures on Mars. And what happened was, as time went on, their outpost was attacked by this culture they were running away from, I think. And that's where we're having all the battles were going on Mars. And it was like, during the Afghanistan war, George Bush said, let's fight them over there instead of fighting them over here. So same idea. Fight them on the moon, fight them on Mars, don't fight them on Earth. If they get past them, then we're in trouble. So there was, and of course, looking at the rovers that drive around you see a lot of rocks, when they're driving around taking these panoramic views. And then occasionally you see some stuff that, doesn't look like a rock. I mean, it's like a missile, architectural pieces blown up, a lot of destruction. So that falls right in line with even Dr. Brandenburg's idea about this whole war that went on. And this is recorded in Maya text.
Wow.
It's right there. And archaeologists know about this. But, so everything kind of ties together. So there was a conflict went on. I think they got found out. There was battles going on Mars. There was battles that went on the moon. That's why we don't go to the moon, because there's too much stuff up there. And they left. The culture, they got found out. They probably went to a galaxy far, far away, and they left us, and we were left on Earth. And as time went on, they have the amnesia. We think about this ancient culture that was here as Atlantis. We make up all these stories, and we forgot. And as our culture progressed, we probably went back to the moon. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about in the past.
Right.
That culture that this alien culture left, we became spacefaring. We went back to the moon, and we went back to Mars. And at this point, I think this is the 22,000 years ago battle that the Maya talk about. I think this was kind of a scenario like the British colonies in America. So the Earth cultures went to Mars, and after 100 years or so, they said, hey, we're not going to be sending all of our minerals back to you guys. We're going to have our own place, Leave me alone, Spanky. So there obviously could have been another. That's why we're finding stuff on Mars that seem to be made at different times. We're finding structures that are highly destroyed, like this square foundation that we're seeing, the square structure. This was pretty beat up. Then, as you can see in my book, if the listeners want to pick up the book, there's structures in there that are pretty pristine. I mean, they're like they were built, 22,000 years ago. So there's a whole different types of structures we're finding on Mars. Some areas, things are really bombed out, really destroyed, but you can still see the geometry. Other areas look like they just left yesterday, and they're just covered with debris and ice and whatever, accumulates over these structures. So that second event, again, they fought with each other. Who knows what happened? I mean, I'm just speculating. And this is what we're left with today. And as time passes, we're contemplating doing the same thing. Musk wants to go to the Mars and build colonies. I mean, what happens? You start building, and, it gets conflicts.
Right.
They're going to find all kinds of elements up there that we need, and they're going to be sending these companies up there. It's all going to cause trouble.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, England
repeating itself.
Yes, you go to England and you dig down a certain layer, and you'll find remnants of the Romans, and if you go down a little bit further, the ancient Celts, and so on and so forth. I want to go to Figure 7, which is on page 60. This is it's a regional map of Arabia Terra, and it places the square structure in some sort of geographical context. So this isn't the first anomalous structure on Mars, of course. We've talked about the face of Cydonia and the D&M pyramid and the Libium. Is it the Montes keyhole?
Yes.
Are we looking at a broader, well, we've sort of talked about this. Talk to me more about this broader archaeological record that we're seeing on Mars.
Yeah, these outposts that they were building, they're all over the planet. And a lot of times they're like little communities. They're a complex of all. I'm not finding just one structure. Usually when these are found, unlike this square foundation, this seems to be isolated. I've looked all over that crater. You really can't see much but that. But a lot of the places, especially in my book, I show these are all clusters of formations. These are archaeologies. And if we go there, there's probably stuff inside. And these things are all over the planet. And the interesting thing is that I found, Richard, is that if you do a map of the planet, which I do in my PowerPoint, it shows that most of these little colonies, if that's what you want to call them, these complexes, these settlements, are all 30 to 40 degrees above the equator or 30 to 40 degrees below the equator. And when you look at the MOLA map that NASA has produced about the heights and the depths and You can see where the ancient Martian ocean was, which the Cydonia face on Mars, right on the edge of the ocean, right there. I mean, it's a seaside resort. All of these structures we're finding are like that. They're right next to water, right around the water line, or they're in the sweet spot, which is 30 to 40 degrees north and south of the equator. Same thing you find on Earth. Most cultures, that's where they're built, around the water, 30 to 40 degrees above the equator.
Fascinating.
As above, so below.
Well, yes. Which brings us to figure 15. This is an historical Earth reference. This is Washington, D.C.'s square layout, which we touched on a little bit earlier. It's used as kind of a philosophical parallel, again, complementing, as you just mentioned, the as below, so above theme. Again, suggesting intelligence manifests in geometry across civilizations.
Yes, and this is, again, north-south orientation, the diamond. And why did the Founding Fathers decide to build this structure to signal this is where the capital is? And it's just reflective, like we had just said, as above, so below, that the same design we're finding in ancient American Indian cultures and the mounds and stuff, building them in the same diamond, north to south orientation, stuff over in the Middle East, in Cydonia, and here in this crater. So just on that alone would make anyone think that there's something going on here. Just doesn't belong.
So are we on the brink of a paradigm shift here, one where Mars is no longer viewed just as this dead rock, but as a site of forgotten history? I mean, are we on the brink of discovering the long-lost Martian history?
Well, I think with my new book we are, yes. And this science paper, I'm just playing with you. But the thing is that Mars was a dead planet when these structures were built there. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Mars was already destroyed, and they were using this as an outpost. And it was easy to build. That's why these structures, the face on Mars is 1.5 miles from top of the head to the chin. I mean, everything is huge. The parrot formation that's mentioned in my book, that from the beak to the end of the tail is 1 mile. Everything is huge. And with the low gravity, you can do that. And I don't know what type of, architects they were, but everything was very large on Mars. And this structure here that was probably entrenched with a dome, this was probably a huge archaeology, which was destroyed, and all we're seeing is the remnants of its foundation. There was a lot going on Mars. But the audience or the public doesn't really, you don't have to rely on Mars having life or having trees and plants and stuff to have these things put there, because that's not the reason they were put there. They were put there to protect something.
Again, the new paper published in the Journal of Astrobiology is titled Mars, Geological Formation or Archaeology, Square-Shaped Structure Within an Arabia Terra Crater. And George J. Haas, alongside geologist William Saunders and Boston University's Dr. Robert Schoch. How can we find that online?
It's available if they go on, just look up Journal of Astrobiology, type in the title, you should be able to find it. I know I've been lax on my Cydonia Institute website. I haven't even added it to my science papers page. I've just been doing so many interviews, like, talking with you. It's been very busy. We've been getting a lot of positive reaction for this. And the good thing is it did get a lot of attention. Joe Rogan, he has pretty powerful, mouth on him there. Uh-huh. He got the public interested, which is, I guess, his mission is done. And it's just an exciting time. There's a lot of research out there. I'm not the only one doing this, but a lot of media is open to doing stories on this now, which is great.
The Great Architects of Mars, Evidence for the Lost Civilizations on the Red Planet. How do we get a copy?
That's available at Amazon.com. It's also, my book is out through Barren Company, which is a subsidiary of Simon & Schuster. Woo! Big time. So, the publisher's been very good to me. They've set up a lot of interviews and opportunities and things. And you can get it at, most people gravitate towards Amazon.com. But it's available at any bookstore, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, any of those bookstores should have it. It's even available on the Walmart book list.
Fantastic.
Well, you made it when you're at Walmart. You're there.
It's true. I mean, it is becoming just part of the the culture, the pop culture. It's becoming part of the conversation, and that is so important. George, always fascinating sitting down with you, and congratulations on this study that's been published, and great speaking with you again, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Okay, one other thing. If the public wants to read the paper's free on the website of the Journal of Astrobiology, so no cost.
I'll put a link to it in the episode description, and people can just click on it, and they can find it right there. Fantastic. George, thank you again.
Thanks for having me on.
A new Richard Syrett's Strange Planet drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.